Can you hear me? I can't hear you. No. He can hear me, Julie, but I can't hear him.
All right. Can you hear me okay now? Very good. Excellent. So I'll unmute you. And you can go ahead and unmute yourself, Sid.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome. So before we get started, I am going to give our listeners and our viewers just a quick taste on how we make.
Bought me a new shovel. Put these in the dirt. Chain with the new belt. Home on put it work. Used to be sleeping on itchy beds. Bed bugs in the motel. Now you give me 20 in the hotel. On a Roman noodle diet. Tour life wasn't so well. Home on starting riots. Marsh pitting on your toenails. Uncle T doing so well.
All right. That's how we look here. You may want to turn the volume down on yours, Sid.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't get any feedback. Okay, yeah, that's good. Still a little bit of feedback though.
Sir.
On that.
Maybe it's because I'm too close to the mic.
Oh yeah, the speaker may be too close. Okay, and you can hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Awesome. Well, everyone, welcome to another edition. I have my special guest with us, Mr. Sid himself, our millionaire guest for Conversations with the Millionaire. Sid, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself to our followers, subscribers, listeners, and viewers?
Hey guys, my name is Sid Chase, Sr., and I am the CEO of the Sid Chase Group and live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Awesome. So glad to have you. So interesting story on how Sid and I met. I was attending a auto fair and in Concord, North Carolina, and just walking around and being totally floored by all these beautiful vehicles and things. I think it was someone quoted me on the day I was there. It was like over 800 different trucks and cars, and I mean from everywhere. And as I was walking along a portion of that, I came across the dopest, awesome looking car, Venom concept. I'll try to see if I can. I don't want to remove Sid, but you can see the picture later. But it was, you saw it in the video. So, of course, me being the curious person that I am, asking him all these questions. I'm just telling him how awesome his car is. He was very nice. He and his wife were there, and I tell you, that car is phenomenal. So one thing led to another in our conversations, and it turns out that Sid has actually had a lot of great accomplishments. Uh, this man has invested in so many things. Turns out he was in the real estate. I was in the real estate, and it was just so phenomenal. And then come to find out, Sid is also a millionaire, many times over, actually. So I said, well, hey, I'm doing this podcast. It's a series called Conversations with a Millionaire. Would you be open to coming on and sharing your life stories, your lessons, the ups and downs, the ins and outs? And I can tell you guys that it was not even a hesitation, not even one hesitation with Sid. So, Sid, we appreciate you being here, bud. How's everything where you are?
It's as hot as it is where you're at, but the market's busy and the weather's been good besides the heat, and we're just moving right along with everything we're doing. We're excited about this year. Next year might be a little different, but we're excited about what's happening this year.
Okay, awesome. Well, let me check the YouTube real quick to just see if there's any. Make sure that they can hear me okay. Can you all hear me now? So I'll send that there. Let me check my comments. Yep, and I can show the comments there. So hopefully everyone can hear me. Well, and they said yes. All right, awesome. So Sid, I start every interview off with asking you about your childhood, where you grew up, if you went to college or not. Well, childhood, where you grew up. Were you a genius in school? Did you go to college? All that good stuff. So go ahead and start us off with your mini biography there.
Sure. I grew up in a small town up in upstate New York, right on Lake Ontario, called Sodas Point. My parents, I would say, were, middle upper class. But my dad was a judge, and we owned a bait shop and a marina, and my mom ran the restaurant. And so my dad was very old school. And most of the time when I was growing up, I thought he only knew one word, and that was no. And so, though we had a little bit, my parents, they worked their butts off from 5 a.m. in the morning until 9 p.m. at night when they closed down the shops. And as soon as I hit, I think they started working me hard when I was probably about 12 years old. Back in those days, you could get away with that. So, but I had a great childhood. I really did. I did run away one time, but it was I stole a boat and cruised across Lake Ontario, but that was just to prove a point. But other than that, yeah, I had a great childhood. I appreciate my parents for everything that they did for me, and I wish they were still here today to see what I was doing. But so school wise, not so much. I think I left in 11th grade, and I begged my father when I was 17 to sign me up to consent for me to join the military. And I was gone in 1981. Didn't graduate high school, though I did get a GED and a New York State high school diploma finally. But no college. I like to say that I went to the college of hard knocks, street knowledge, but no real college. I spent I think they call it a semester or something like that at Laurel Community College in Maryland, but really no college. I had a lot of great mentors throughout my life, My parents were the first two that I had. And then I had a lot of other ones after that.
Awesome. So you said you did join the military, or you?
Yeah. So I did 15 years in the military altogether. I was in 81 to about 87-ish, late 87. And then I was out for 12 years. I started building my business. I had multiple businesses. I think my wife and I were talking about it earlier, and I think we're at 22 different businesses over the 33 years that we've been together.
Wow.
But it's a lot, but whether my way was the right way or the wrong way, it probably wasn't. But for me, it was the right way. And I just evolved over time, and that's how my businesses came about. It wasn't that I was just scattered all over the place. Each one of them piled on top of the other one. It was just another stepping stone for me. Okay. So that's why, I've had so many businesses. But other than that, no college.
Okay.
But
Wow.
I will insert the fact that I think you should go to college. I a lot of times wish I had gone to college, not so much for necessarily the degree. I mean, if you want to be a doctor, lawyer, dentist, something like that, or financier, or in investment banking or something like that, you need to go, right? But if you're just going to get the 2-year degree, I get that too. But the important thing about going to college, I look back on now and I think about it's really one, networking, especially if you're going to a higher end college, right? It's all about the people you know, and you should be getting all of their names, because down the road, you don't know who's going to hit it and who's not going to hit it. And you might need them one day. So that's real important. And I think the other thing about college is it would have brushed me up a little bit. I wouldn't be so scruffy, not like looks, but how I talk and the words that I use, and, more elegant.
You would have been a little more refined.
Well, a little bit more refined, because I'm definitely not refined. That's for sure. My wife will tell you that every day.
Well, thank you for your service, by the way, for the military. Thank you so much for serving.
Oh, you're welcome. So what I was going to say was, after I was out for 12 years, 30 days after September 11th, they came back looking for me. I signed back up, and I did another 8 years after that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I do remember that day that happened. I was actually in college the day that happened. Yeah. So where do I start? Because that's just an interesting story right off the bat. So once you leave the military, what is your first job? The first time you left the military, what was your first job, and how did you get started working?
So I was in Glen Burnie, Maryland area, which is where Fort Meade is. And I was working as a private investigator. Okay. And I worked for a large company there, and I went undercover a lot in the Smithsonian institutions and other businesses around Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. And did undercover work, and that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that a lot, actually. Lots of great stories, but probably some I shouldn't say on here. Yeah. But a lot of great stories there. And then after that, I moved back to New York and got a job working for UPS, and I didn't like that. Didn't last very long. And then that's when I kind of started really thinking, you know what, I can't work for anybody else. It's just not my forte. And I decided to start branching out on my own. My first part-time business was paintball. I had my own paintball field.
Really?
Yep.
Did you own the land that you had?
Yeah. So my ex-wife at the time, so this was 35 years ago, give or take. We owned 92-acre farm, and we weren't really farming.
92 acres?
Yeah, 92 acres. Yeah. Well, back then, 92 acres would cost you $50,000 with a house on it. Not today.
Oh, wow.
Not today.
Now, did you get that? Was that from your family? Like
no,
or
no. So the first time I ever flipped a house was accidental. So again, that ex and I bought a house in Maryland from a guy who was flipping the house. And we went to Coldwell Banker. Now, back in the old days, everybody went to the closings at the same time.
Right.
Not like it is today, right? So we were all at the table, and the quick story of this is we were signing the paperwork, and the guy was all upset, and he was constantly being kind of rough and mean, and I didn't understand why. And after it was all over with, somebody had told me that he had to sell his house that day, otherwise they were going to foreclose on him. So I ended up buying this house for $75,000, and the quicker part of the story is 1 year later, I sold it for like $155,000. And it was because that day that I signed, the county turned all of our land on that road to commercial.
So the rezoning of that just spiked your value.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the house that you're buying, that's on all those acres.
No, that house I'm talking about was in Maryland. Okay. After we sold that house, that's how we were able to go buy the land in upstate New York. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And you turned it into a paintball business.
Yes. Just so everybody knows that was not the light bulb. That was the light bulb moment. That was when the light bulb flickered, but it went right back out again because it just didn't stick in my head. It was a few years later that I realized that, flipping real estate, which is kind of what has put me where I'm at today. That's what got me started, really. Made a difference in my life, big difference. But when I bought that property up there, I started a paintball field, and I was doing Amway, believe it or not. And I was I was very good at Amway, and I was doing the paintball stuff on the side, and we became the first speedball field in the state of New York, and it just took off, went really well. And then her and I went in different directions, and it all fell apart, and I had to pick it up and do it all over again.
Yeah. Okay. So that's very interesting, because one of the things that I'm learning about each and every millionaire that I've interviewed thus far, and it's not a bad thing what I'm about to say, but each and every millionaire, they weren't born with a silver spoon in their mouth, right? They didn't get their money from inheritance or something like that. They had a job, opportunities came their way. Everyone has done some form of real estate thus far. So now that you have this paintball and you're working for Amway, is the paintball starting, or is Amway getting in track in I would say, is it getting in the way of the paintball because it's picking up so much?
No, not actually. No, the Amway did really well for me, but because of our divorce, she ended up getting the Amway company, and I actually sold her the farm. So I kind of became a nurse after that, believe it or not.
Really, a nurse?
Yeah, that's how I became not a registered nurse. It's like a CNA, certified nurse's aide. So that's what I did for a while, just to kind of make ends meet. And then once I got that established and got myself, my feet back under me again, I think I'm just going to go through the businesses, but there was a feed store, like a Tractor Supply, an implement store kind of thing. There was a pool business, a satellite business, couple of different restaurants, real estate business, a flipping business, consulting firm. There's been so many of them.
And just so our audience knows, how many houses to date have you flipped?
I don't want to say to date because I'm not sure the exact number anymore, but I'll just say that over the last 33 years that I've been married to my wonderful wife that I'm with now, and because of her, I am where I'm at. She played a huge part of all of this. I would say we're probably north of 1,200, maybe 1,500 homes all together. And then when I say that, just kind of we lump it all together. It's it's flips, it's wholesale, it's developments, it's new homes, it's a whole mixture of apartment complexes and all kinds of things.
Wow. Okay, so let's go back. You're divorced. You have to start over now. You are now working as a certified nurse's assistant, CNA. And Are you making good money as a CNA?
I was making back then. I was making okay money. I think it was like $10 an hour,
Right.
something like that. And so I finally broke out on my own. I created my own certified nurses aid company and hired other agents, or not other agents, sorry, other nurses aides. And I basically ran them under my company, and we went out and we took care of people in their private homes.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And that we did really well on. And my wife, Julie, at the time, she also joined in with that. And that, gosh, that went for a few years until I got a tattoo and one of the people fired me. And then I realized that's not going to go anymore. So
Wow.
I started getting involved in investments at that point, and my feed store was going, and my satellite dishes. I was doing Dish Network and DirecTV and putting up swimming pools, and I was just doing whatever I could do to make money. And at the feed store one day, I just realized that, I can't lift 50-pound bags of feed in people's trucks for my whole life, I don't think, and I don't want to be installing pools my whole life. Right. So I need to figure something else out. And believe it or not, the very first book that I ever read about real estate investing was from Robert Kiyosaki.
Yep.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great book.
Though
Great book.
I'm not a huge fan of his anymore. I haven't been in years. Actually, my first book, I'll show you here.
Please show us your book.
My first book I ever wrote was there's a couple of paragraphs in there that are kind of talk a little bit bad about Robert, but look, he's a good guy and he's very successful, and what he did worked. It doesn't mean it was necessarily all true, but it worked. It was great marketing, and he knocked the ball out of the park, right? But I realized, and he was the one who actually drove me, lit that fire to drive me to write that first book, because I realized after reading all of his books and then other people's books, except for Multiple Streams of Income, that's a great book to read. It's a pure book, is what I like to call them. But the other books like Robert's, they were like fluff and stuff. They just fluff you, they stuff you, and they get you in a auditorium, and the next thing you know, it's $5,000, $20,000, $40,000, and I'll teach you how to flip a house, or I'll teach you how to buy a house. And most of those folks, and I'm not saying everything bad about Robert, but most of those guys that are doing that, they haven't been in the trenches. They're selling you something because they had one flip or two flips or whatever. They bought one apartment complex or something, and now they're selling a book. Or not just a book, sorry, but a whole program, for $5,000 to $40,000 back in the day. And I was just never one that wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah. And you're not the first one to have a critique of him. Just so our audience knows, I just posted the link to Sid's website. And could you show them the copy of that book again, Sid?
Sure. This is the first book. It's all about real estate and how I got started in real estate.
Right. And do you have your other two there?
Yeah. So this one here is this book is a 1 page a day read. Yep, that's the old Sid. Look at me. I was still in the military then. So most people think that's my father, but actually my dad was better looking than me then, I think, at that point in his life. But anyways,
that's when you were undercover.
Yeah. So this is just the daily dose of no bull. It's about me and a bunch of my friends and other wealthy people, and we just put stuff in here that we thought other people would want to hear and want to know, and it's all positive and lift me up type of stuff.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, and then my third book that I wrote. This one I put out, it came out a little kind of at the end of COVID, so I didn't promote it too much. Wasn't able to. I don't try to push my books except for when I'm speaking. That's where I sell most of my books, really. Okay. And so this book here is, though I love my first book, this book this is where my life went from basic investing to the next level of investing, because most people out there, the government controls what you can and can't do with your investments. They tell you what you can invest in and what you can't invest in, right? So this book, each chapter is about a different alternative investment. And it tells you my experience in investing in each one of those. So anything from gold to silver to forestry to wine to movies, real estate, obviously. And those things that I did, I tell people how to go invest in those, whether you do it through the stock market or, which I would prefer, you do it purely. So when you invest in oil, you can go buy Exxon, right, on the equities, or the alternative way to do that would be reach out to a company that's looking for investors and invest with them directly.
Huh. Okay. Yeah.
Now there is some qualifications you have to meet in order to get there, right? That's those things I'm talking about. The government controls you, but once you get to those levels, and there's a way to get around those levels to an extent, that's pure investing right there.
That's awesome. And we're going to come back to that a little later on those alternative investment opportunities. Real quick, I got to ask you, you've done so many different businesses. Have you ever owned a Chick-fil-A franchise or any type of fast food franchise?
Actually, no. I've owned 2 restaurants. I've owned a donut shop, pizza shop. But no fast food. So I spent a lot of time, like a couple of years, researching franchises. I'm not totally against them. Obviously they work, but they're not for the beginners. And one, because of the entry fee is too high, and your background, right? Well, I'll be the first one to tell you, I almost bought 12 Subways. There was a group of us that are together. We were buying 12 Subways in upstate New York area. And I was the lead person in the group. So Subway at the time would make you take a test to see if you were, I guess, smart enough to run a Subway.
Right.
So I failed the test, bro. And they wouldn't let me, they wouldn't let me invest in the Subway.
Really?
So yeah. So one of the other people took the test, they passed, but we all got thinking about it and was like, that they're just going to control us. Yeah. So let's go out and do something on our own. And that's what we all did.
Wow. So I'm going to double back to where you have the CNA business. And at that time, you're starting the other businesses, the feed, and et cetera, et cetera. What is funding each of these new businesses, and what is the learning curve that you're having to go through? Because each business seems like a totally different industry from what I'm hearing so far.
Yeah. In a way, you're right. In the beginning, yes. So I went from satellite dishes to I did all these almost at the same time, but I didn't start them all at the same time. So I had the feed store, the restaurant, the donut shop. I grew up in the restaurant business with my parents. I grew up. My father owned a marina, and he was very successful in what he did. So I learned a lot from the restaurant business, learning how to run businesses. I had that already. I mean, I had the basics, the very basics, right? So, but funding those, they were grassroots, man, because back then I didn't really have a whole lot, so I grassrooted them, and I put in my sweat equity, and that's what got me off the ground, So I'll give you the quick story on the satellite business. I went and worked for somebody else for a while to help them out, and I kind of, after a year or so, I didn't like the way he was doing business and treating his customers. I'm like, hey, I think he was selling, can't remember if it was Dish Network or if it was DirecTV. But anyways, the other company came and talked to me and said, hey, would you like to open up a shop in the next town over? And I'm like, sure. And so I had to go to my father and borrow, I think it was $3,000. He made me sign a note. He made me make payments. I had interest. I had the whole hey, that's how you learn. That's how you become responsible, right?
Right.
And so
your father was straight bank. He was business. Yeah. That was business.
Yeah, exactly. And so I went out and I bought 10 dishes, 10 satellite dishes. And at the end of 30 days, my wife and I, Julie, and then put all of those dishes in. And back then, when you put a satellite dish in, you got a royalty check as well, right? As long as they kept paying, you would get a royalty check. So if I remember correctly, and she's on YouTube listening right now in the other room, so I'm sure she'll chime in and correct me if I'm wrong. But we bought $3,000. We bought
join one too.
She's a little camera shy, though she is a very beautiful woman, but she's a little camera shy. But anyways, I borrowed $3,000 from my father, and at the end of 30 days, I made just over $9,000 on those 10 or 15, whatever it was that I bought. I paid him back the $3,000 in less than 30 days. Plus I gave him his interest on it, which wasn't a whole lot, but I felt good about it. And then I just started rolling it over after that, and living way below our means. It was crazy, but that's what you got to do. People don't get that today.
That's very key. And your wife was with you in this journey, and she partnered with you in living below the means. Was she helping you with the companies, maybe going in there and doing some sweat equity with you, or maybe doing the accounting or whatever have you?
Well, let me just knock that with one hammer. Okay, one clank on the hammer. Okay, so I've told you all earlier that, over all these years, and we still build homes, we still flip homes. My wife's a broker, my daughter-in-law is an agent, and a real estate agent all as well. And we're still well into the real estate business. And this guy can't use a measuring tape. I can't tell you what those little slashes are in there. I can't swing a hammer. I can throw one, but I can't swing one. My wife can, she's actually the one. I'm the organizer.
Okay.
I know how to go get the funding. And my wife, that she learned from her father, was the one who actually did most of the flips. And she actually did the work. She told me what to do. I was the pretty face and, the grunt worker. That's it.
Right.
That woman could do pretty much anything when it comes to, and now she actually runs our Chase Signature Homes business.
Right. And we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
I want you to tell them later about what you just built, how big that mountain of a structure that you built. Okay, so you had to start from square one. You became a CNA. Then you saw that, hey, there were some things missing here. I'm going to start a CNA business. You had other CNAs sign up with you, and I guess you were like a third party. For the employment things. That's going well. You're taking that money. You're not splurging it. You're not buying the fancy cars and the big houses. You're actually taking that money and starting other businesses with it. Which business after you started the CNA was the first business to fail horribly? And why did it fail, if any?
Well, I don't know, probably everybody says this, but I don't look at any of the businesses that I had as failures. Just I rate them from 0 to 10, right? So if you want to rate the one that I think that I did the worst on, it's actually one I'm going through right now that I started 1.5 years ago. And if you want to go back to the beginning, I would say it was probably one of the restaurants that we had that I didn't do as well as I should have with it. But I had also poor management in there, right. Poor cooks. They were doing a lot of drugs and things like that, blah, blah, blah. Oh, wow. And I'm not saying, I'm not blaming them. It comes down to me, right? I should have been a better owner operator, and that stuff probably would have not happened at that point, right? So it's not their fault. It's my fault for not managing it better, right? So, but I mean, maybe the worm business I had when I was 9 years old, and I had it at my friend's house, and his house caught on fire and it killed all the worms. I mean, that's probably the worst one.
Right. Did you have any business that lost a lot of money that you were like, that maybe took you back a little bit or put you in the hole a little bit?
So I've had one really scary moment in my life, and I'm probably and guaranteed I'm not the only person out there, whether you own a business or you didn't own a business. If you're just breathing, you were scared during COVID. COVID was a scary time. And I'm specifically talking about our home building company. So we had a lot of specs out, millions of dollars out, and they were trying to call us. And what I mean by that is not just calling me on the phone. I mean, they were trying to call it in. And I know a lot of people aren't going to be happy about what I'm saying right now, but I'm just, thank God Trump did what he did, because within the last hour, when he made the ruling that you can't foreclose, you can't call in, he saved us.
Yeah.
And he saved us.
That saved your business. Right.
It did. It did.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Wow.
It
So
did.
You have the multiple businesses now. You're out of the CNA. Oh gosh, there's so much I want to go into. Give us a quick rundown of all those different businesses again over the next couple of years that you were, tapping into. You got satellite, you got restaurant, you got feed.
Yeah, so all of those businesses you just mentioned kind of all work in the same atmosphere, right? So you have the feed store. If you got feed in there, you're selling animals, pet shop. And then we added in the satellite dishes, and then we added in the pool company. And then in the wintertime, when things were slower with those, we were out plowing snow every morning. All of those things kind of jive together, right? And then one day, after I had been reading the Robert Kiyosaki stuff for a while, I decided that it was time. You know what? We need to try to buy our first property. So my first property was a 4-unit apartment complex that I paid, I think, $55,000 for, with 3 acres of land. And I'll tell you, and I got it from a friend. I mean, if they're out there listening, he may be, but he knows what I'm talking about. His father's not with us anymore, but he was, at the time, I thought being nice to me. But then I realized I inherited a major headache, and all the tenants knew more than I do. I did. I mean, they were smarter than I. I tried to get him evicted, and I looked like a fool in court, So
this was 40 unit. You said it's 40 units?
Four units. 4 unit. Yeah. And so I spent that fall and that winter learning, crash course on how to do evictions on my own. I learned all about the different types of renters that come to you, on disability renters, or, I can't even think of all of them.
Veterans.
Yeah. All those, I started learning about all those. I learned the New York State Code enforcement book on what I had to, what was expected of me on my property. And then I learned my local one and what they wanted, because just because the Fed and the state says one thing doesn't mean the locals actually do it, right? So they have their own thing. So I befriended those folks, started learning. Al Hendricks was probably my biggest asset in that. He was the code enforcer for SOTUS, and he was somebody that my family knew. And I just went to him and I said, man, I need some help. So within about the first year of my first rental, I lost a little over $10,000. And luckily it was personally financed. So they weren't trying to take it back from me yet, because I was struggling to make the payments. And we reconstructed the whole thing. I went to court, and within the next few months, I got everybody out. I did a back end deal. So what I meant was I took 5 months that I was behind, I added it to the back. So I started fresh, and then I got them to give me a short-term loan to go in and rehab the places. And it was basic rehab. I went in and did all that. And then let's just skip forward. I got everybody in there. And then I don't know how many months it was. I don't know, 6-7 months down the road, I walked out of my feed store, went over to the mailbox, grabbed the mail, walked back in, threw the mail on the table. And a little while later, I going through it. And when Julie got back, I said, hey, I think we ought to buy some more real estate, because we got all 4 checks at the same time. This is awesome.
Wow.
And so we did. We worked our way up to
start of your cash flow.
Yeah, so we worked our way up to 59 doors, and then I don't know how many more doors that we were managing for other people. So I forgot to tell you about that one. We had a management company, apartment management company, right. Rental management company, and that's where the rehabbing started to come in. Right, we were then finding properties to sell, not me sell, but to get other people to buy,
Right.
and then I would manage them for them.
Right.
And then I started flipping my first property.
Oh wow. Oh wow. That's awesome. So everyone, we are still here. We have Mr. Sid Chase here, our special guest. We're going to break out just for 1 minute. Definitely post your questions in the comments. If you would like to come on the stream, you're more than welcome to do that. I believe I can bring you on. If you don't want to be on video, I believe I can just bring you on audio. So that's cool. And we're going to just take a 1 minute break here. And then we're going to come back and finish this awesome story. And Sid, just hang tight and we'll get you back in. Okay, bud?
Sounds good.
All right.
So tell you good night, 'cause I'll find no matter what, yeah. Susceptible back before the moment flies. Ooh, so tell you good night, 'cause I'll find no matter what. I know what I'm getting into. Yes. Yeah. And nothing can stop me. No. 'Cause I'm addicted to what you and I realize. Lead the way, I follow. No need to say where we are heading now, babe. I follow to the edge of it all. So tell you good night, 'cause I'll find no matter what, yeah. Susceptible back before the moment flies, before it flies. So tell you good night, 'cause I'll find no matter what. Susceptible back before the moment flies,
Bought me a new shovel. Put these in the dirt. Chain with the new belt. All my put to work. Used to be sleeping on itchy beds. Bed bugs in the motel. Now you give me 20 in the hotel. On a Roman noodle diet. Tour life wasn't so well. All my starting riots. Marsh pitting on your toenails. Uncle T doing so well.
All right, and we are back with Mr. Sidney L. Chase, and we're so glad to have him. We're going to jump right back into the conversation that we're having. Let's change my background a little bit here. All right, Sid, so let's pick up where we left off. You were able to get 4 units. That was a huge learning curve in terms of how to deal with that whole situation. And then you were able to then get some more units. You just kept building. Now, are you acquiring more properties through taking out loans because now you're generating that cash flow?
No, actually, so I don't know, about a couple of years went by during this build up time, small build up. And the FedEx guy would come to my store every week and drop me off, 10 to 15 to 20 satellite dishes. And we got to know each other. And
so you're still doing the satellite business?
So I'm still doing the satellites. I'm still running the feed store. I'm still putting up pools in the summertime and trying to do houses on the side. And I had a crew to do some of that for me. After a little bit, I got a crew going, and I was just managing the crew, and my wife was running. We're going there, and I was at the store most of the time. But so this FedEx guy, his name's Chuck. And he says to me one day, he pulls me aside in the store and he says, what are you doing? I'm like, what do you mean? What am I doing? I run a feed store. You know that. And I put up satellite dishes. He goes, no, bro. He says, you know, you're doing something else. I know you are. And I'm like, he's like, are you selling drugs or something? And I'm like, no, man. I guess I'm doing real estate. And he goes, oh, I've been wanting to do real estate all the time. And so we ended up becoming partners. And
really,
yeah,
with the FedEx guy.
Yeah, with the FedEx guy, and he comes back to the store about, I don't know, a week later, I think it was 2 weeks later, and he says, "What would you do if I gave you $40,000?" I said, "Nothing." And he goes, "Well, what do you mean nothing?" "Oh, I wouldn't take your money." "What do I need your money for?" He goes, I want to flip a house with you. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. So a few months went by, and finally my lawyer at the time said, "Look, Sid, you know what you're doing. You know how to do it. I'll help set up the entity, your LLC, and so on and so." Now I had a separate LLC from my apartments, right? And that's a whole nother story to go into. But then I set up this one just for flipping houses. And so I got him to sign a contract. I took his money in. The first place we bought was $10,000. It was a beach house over near Chimney Bluffs. We rehabbed it, and if I remember correctly, I think we sold that thing for like $35,000 or $40,000 after we rented it for a while, and then we sold it. And then he did another one with me, and another one, and another one, and another one. And then we started buying more places together. So we started to do another LLC for him and what him and I owned together. And then he was chapping up the storm. And next thing I know, I was getting money from his father. And then I got money from his mother. And then I got money from his uncle. Wow. And, so those, let me think real quick. I think it was a ballpark, maybe $150,000 at the time, between the father, the mother, and the uncle. Just
what year was this?
This was 96, 95, maybe 94-ish, somewhere around that ballpark.
Okay.
And so we just started taking their money and buying and flipping houses. His father, for example, who again is another gentleman who's not with us today. He was great, Grandpa Charles. He was awesome. But I think it was Caroline Avenue, maybe it was. So I bought that house from the bank. So at that time I was using a realtor, right? And now I have my own realtor company, right? So I saved myself anywhere between 3% and 6% on a deal now, right? So I learned that lesson after about 2 or 3 years. But anyways, so I bought this. I was getting foreclosures, REOs, right? So not courthouse step foreclosures, not pre-foreclosures, pure REOs, right? That's, in my opinion, that's the cleanest way to do things. It's the simplest way. And again, if anybody wants to know that, they can just go to my website and I give you a free 20-minute chat, right? About whatever you want to talk about. But so I bought this house. And the real short story is I got it for, I believe it was, I want to say it was like $12,500. I did a paint job on it, cleaned it all up. I might have had maybe $5,000 into it, tops. Mm-hmm. And as I was rehabbing the house, this guy comes up and says he wants to buy it, right? So now I'm working on the house while I'm waiting for it to close, because the bank knows me well enough now on this that they're allowing me to go in early because they know I'm just paying in cash, right? Yeah. So he comes up. I just about had the house done before we even closed on the deal 30, 40 days from the beginning, right? Okay. And I sold it to him. I closed on the bank and closed on him 3 hours later for $70,000.
Oh wow. Oh, wow.
So I paid his father off in like, I don't know, it was like 45 days or something. And he turns around and he not only gives me the money back, he doubles it up.
He doubles it up. Why? Because you've proven yourself that you were able to do it well. Now, quick question: with all these businesses, are you establishing separate LLCs, S corps or C corps? Do you have a trust? Like, what's the organization of it?
Yeah. So back then it was just basically LLCs. Today it's a whole different organizational setup that I have now. But back then it was just an LLC. So the real quick story on LLCs is if you're going to own property, put them into your LLC. In the beginning, when you owe a lot of debt on them, don't worry about having 4, 5, or 6 or 7 of them in the same LLC. It's not a big deal. But when you start to build that equity in there and you're paying those things down, that's when you want to start taking them out and putting them into separate LLCs.
Right.
So they don't tumble like dominoes on you.
Right. Okay. Excellent. Okay. So now you're in the flipping business. Quick question. How did you know, or did you not know, that the FedEx guy would work out well, that he would be trustworthy, that he would be honest, that he would be a hard worker, that he would match your speed and your desire?
Yeah. So depending on who's listening, I'm more of a leader than I am a follower. So I just went to him and I said, I'll take your money. Here's a contract. You have no say. None, period.
Gotcha.
Okay. I'll split the money with you 50-50 because you're putting up the money. I'm doing all the work. I'll handle the whole thing. You just go be your FedEx guy and my money guy, and I'll do all the work. And I had a little bit of a track record at that point. So he was willing to do that. And if worst case scenario is the 40 grand that I started with him, he would have ended up with the house. That was the deal. If he would have got the house. So he wasn't really going to lose anything. Right. So he worked out for, I don't know, 12 or 15 years. Him and I partnered together. And I don't want to talk about what happened with him and his wife are still together. Everything's cool. But what happened that split us is not something I would like to air. So
Right. Most definitely. Yeah. Okay. But it was a long term that you had a good partner nonetheless.
Yeah. And it was because he was the silent partner. All he cared about is getting his check every month from whether it was the cash flow properties or it was the flip properties, and at that point, I think the first full year of flipping. So I the first 6 months I flipped, and then my first full year of flipping, man, if I remember correctly, and again, Julie will chime in if I'm wrong, but I think we made over 300 grand flipping that year.
Oh, wow. 300
grand.
Yeah.
We flipped a lot of houses that year.
Right. Gabrielle Mary Lewis says, Sid Chase Group is skilled at developing power teams. What advice would you give a future husband-wife power team, which we were going to go into later, so I'm glad Gabrielle brought that up, where trust has been established, yet little to no experience in the business?
I'm going to be straightforward with you, and I appreciate your question. It's very hard for me to answer that until I kind of get to know you a little bit, the two of you. But for my wife and I'll use us as an example, right? I'm a few years older than her, though she looks older than I am. But I'm a few years old. Don't wait a minute. Okay, I'm good. She's not coming around the corner. I'm just kidding. Look, my wife's the glue, man. My wife holds this whole thing together. I'm just a front guy, and I know how to talk and get people to trust us with their money. Now it's much easier, but in the older days it was harder. But you got to find out what it is you're going after, and then learn from somebody in that field, right? So the old saying is, don't go to the cow farmer to raise pigs. It doesn't work, right? Yeah. So go find a mentor without paying an exuberant amount of money, and a good mentor is not going to charge you at all. I'm going to be straight honest with you. A good mentor, not guru, mentor is not going to charge you at all to learn from them if they're that good. right? And what I mean by that is,
That's
will you
interesting.
have to
Explain
will
that.
you have,
Yeah.
will you have to put in some sweat equity? You sure will. Will you have to do some things for them to get the knowledge from them? You sure do, right? But you should, right? But should they necessarily charge you? I don't know, because the way I look at it with people that I partner with is I want to teach you, one, so that you can help me, right? But two, we partner down the road, and then three, my real goal is I don't want anybody working for me. And if you do, that's fine. That's what you want to do for the rest of your life, work for the Sid Chase Group. But in that period of time, you better be flipping houses. You better be investing in alternative investments. You better be saving your money because, I might up and have a heart attack one day and I'm out and you're sitting there holding the bag. So our philosophy here is to teach people, whether they work for us or don't work for us, to be wealthy. And wealthy doesn't just mean money. It means well-rounded family, as best as you can get that, and to help other people, and those other people you help you. And it's a very small, minute group of community of people that are like-minded like that. So, and I know I kind of got off and I didn't maybe directly answer her question, but I will tell you that if you go on my website, and I'm not looking for anything from you, but you go on my website, there's a slot on there somewhere that you can fill out or reach out to me through Facebook or Instagram, and we'll give you all that information at some point. I'll be more than happy to sit down with the two of you and discuss the direction or your needs or what have you got done, because I can sit here and tell you that, and you can read it, you can watch it in documentaries. Real estate is the ticket. Right. That's where the majority of everybody who's got any type of wealth, minus a startup, something like that. That's where their wealth comes from, is real estate. Right. But before that, there's a whole list of about 11 things that you need to do to get to that point. And I'm hoping that most of your listeners at this point are at least thinking along those lines, and they're probably doing half of those things already. But those 10 or 11 things need to be done first before you go investing in the stock market like I do every morning. I trade, and I have long portfolios, and I run my own portfolios. And Vanguard runs one of mine, but the rest of them I run myself. There's the steps to do it. You can't be the jack of all trades, or my dad would say, a fart in a mitten or whatever. You can't be that. It's got to be step by step by step, and you got to get yourself around the right people.
So what would you say?
That probably didn't help her a bit at all, but I hope it did.
So, well, I would say to her question, what I'm hearing in your story is, you know what you're good at. Your wife knows what she's good at. And it seems like you, maybe earlier on, correct me if I'm wrong, had your own lane, established your own lane, and you kind of stayed in your own lane.
That sounds wonderful. Holy crap, it sounds like euphoria. But, that's not what happened. No, it's not at all what happened. So look, I'm almost 10 years older than my wife. And so I had a lot more experience at doing things than she did. And I was lucky enough to have a woman that just wanted to be with a man that cared about her and had some place that he was trying to go. Whether we got there or not didn't matter. It was the fact that she wanted to be with somebody that was going someplace and that she could go on. And this woman sacrificed a lot to support my craziness, and yeah. So next question before I get all bad. Yeah.
Well, I can tell the audience that I met your wife, and she's awesome, awesome, awesome lady. And while I was sitting there asking you everything about your car, she was just sitting in the chair, just chilling and hanging out and all that good stuff. All right. So to the, you said there were a couple things that you need to do before you start investing and making those moves. Could you give the audience maybe the first 2 or 3 things?
Sure. I keep this list in front of me all the time just so I don't forget it. But, you need to have an emergency fund. You need to have a 401k and match it match what, put into whatever they're matching. Anything else needs to go in a Roth IRA, right? If you don't have, if you're self-employed, you need to have a self-directed IRA. Okay. Pay off your highest interest rate things first. Excuse me.
Snowballing kind of down for your debt.
Yeah, trying to pay your debt down as far as you can get it down, accelerate it if you can. And at the same time, you got to be putting money away. So you want to have a health expensive, like I think they call it HSA, I think it's called, or something like that.
Okay.
Account. You should have your own brokerage account. So even if you have a 401k with the company you're with, or you should have your own brokerage account, and then that brokerage account goes and does other things for you that we can talk about at another time. And then you go pay your smaller things off first, or last, I mean, and then you could talk about, okay, now I can get into real estate.
Right. It sounds very similar to like a Dave Ramsey, almost a financial peace kind of steps with your emergency fund, your savings, snowballing so you get out of debt and things like that.
Yeah, and I know that, I'll just say it sucks. It does. All of that stuff sucks. It's terrible, right? Why? Look, Sid, I just want to just tell me what stock, what house do I flip? How do I wholesale?
Right.
That, and look, I experienced what I'm about to tell you. If you don't put those building blocks together, especially the emergency fund, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially the emergency fund, and all of that pabooms on you, you've lost it all. It doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter how much sweat equity you put in. It doesn't matter how much equity you have in the house. If you do not have the basics down, it doesn't matter. When it comes tumbling down, it's going to tumble.
It's going to tumble. Yeah, it's going to tumble hard too.
Right.
Now,
real estate, look, it's great, right? And I did it kind of backwards, right? I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't do any of those damn things. I didn't because I didn't know to do them.
Right.
I didn't know to do that, right? And I was part of Dave Ramsey's group when he first started, and he helped me. He helped Julie and I. I think we wiped out $75,000 worth of debt in like 2 years because of his program.
Oh wow!
So that's a whole nother story. But you got to do those things. Like dividend investing. So great, you have your 401k, but you need to have a Roth IRA. And if you still have money left after that, you need to have your own brokerage account so you can put your own portfolios together. And now, so now people are out there telling me, well, I don't know what stocks to pick. Well, do you think I did either? Do you think when I bought the feed store, I knew what dog food to sell you? I didn't. Right? When you first started your first job, whatever it may be, folks, you didn't know what you were doing. You were winging it.
So what if someone does those steps and they have very little starting money, right? Where do they start? What do they do?
Well, again, do the sign up on my site, and I'll help you get started and show you how to do it, right? And
awesome.
And I'll be more than happy. But let me just make a quick point to you, right? Let's just say you got 150 extra bucks. Okay. And let's say that's 300. So it's 150 bucks every 2 weeks in your paycheck. You happen to have that. We'll just start with that because that's what I did the math on. Okay. So if you have 150 bucks and every 2 weeks for the next 8 years, you put that in a brokerage account. Mm-hmm. And that brokerage account buys the S&P 500. So let me think of one. So the SCHD, for example, right? Mm-hmm. And you're going to have a total at the end of the 8 years of if I did my math right, $28,800. Okay. So since the beginning of the S&P 500, it's averaged over 10% a year.
Right, over 10%.
Okay, so let's cut that back and just say 8%. Okay. So at the end of 8%, at the end of 8% a year for 30 years, you're going to have $1.8 million.
Over how many years?
30.
30. Okay. So if someone starts that at 40, even if they feel like they're late, they're behind, they start that at 40. By the time they hit 70, they're going to have how much?
1.8 million.
Wow.
Right. So there's the people that come to me and say there's excuses and whatever. And this is the drill sergeant side of me. Okay. So I'm going to try to keep them at bay as much as possible. But, okay, tell me your sad story and then let's get on. Let's just move on, right? Because there's really the only excuse for you not to be wealthy is because you're not chasing it hard enough. You're not doing all the right things. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's not. Look, making money, folks, making money is easy. It's real easy. Heck, I can go to McDonald's and make money, right? It's what you do with the money that you earn, number one. And number two, it's harder to keep the money than it is to make the money, right? Sit down and watch TV for an hour and count how many bullshit things they put in front of you to buy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Go down Main Street in your local town, and how many car dealerships are there? I don't know, 12, 13 of them?
A heck of a lot. Yeah.
So making money is easy. Saving it and not just saving like the old school saving, right? Compounding, putting it here, putting it there, that type of stuff. But the hard part is keeping the money.
So how did you, and this may come from your military background, but as you were moving on, let's say starting with the CNA, that sounds like a really big diving board for you financially. How did you have the discipline not to start splurging? How did you have the discipline to live below your means? How did you have the discipline to say, okay, this dollar that I got, I'm going to take 75 cents of it and put it to work?
Jason, bro, who the hell said I did that? I'm just as guilty as the next person out there.
But eventually you got to that point, right?
Look, so yeah, I did. I bought some foolish things, but I think, look, I was like 20.
He's not talking about the Venom car, guys. He's not talking about the Venom car. The Venom car came later.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about the Venom car. Yeah, no. I was like 27 or so when I kind of somewhat woke up, right? Okay. And then it still took another, I don't know, probably 31, 32 before I really was able to find the lithium battery that would stay on and keep the light bulb on long enough. Like I have an issue with staying focused, right? That a lot of people have that. And so, it was tough for me, but you that's where you got to get around the group of people and your partner to hold you accountable, right? So my partner, look, I'll tell you a story. I struggled with my partner because we owned a Geo Metro. We were so thrilled that we even got approved to own a Geo Metro. Just look up Geo Metro and that'll tell you something right there, right? But hey, that car got 50 plus miles to the gallon, man. I'm gonna tell you that much, right?
Oh yeah.
But one day, Jason, I was driving down the road in the Geo Metro, and I was passing Walmart and trying to pass Walmart, and the car turned in all by itself. I was like, what the hell's going on? So I'm the guy that says, hey, bro, when I'm dead and gone, put me out in front of Walmart, bury me there, because that way I know my wife's going to visit me every freaking day. So I had my own struggles, right? But you know what? Once she got on board, and and I say Julie, but you know what her real nickname is? It's the glue, right? Because she holds the business together, the family together, the children together. She holds me together. She holds us together. She's an amazing woman. All right, I've said enough. Maybe I'll get a rhubarb pie tonight. I don't know, but
and I don't know if they're making them like Julie nowadays, man. I know I talk to a lot of guys. It's probably a subject for another podcast, but I don't know how many young Julies there are out here right now.
They're hard to come by. I'm sure they are. But it's not that. Look, you don't need a partner to do this, right? You need partners to do this, right? Because you can only go up the ladder so far, folks, by yourself. It's just as simple as that, right? It's the same at your job. It's the same at corporate, right? You can only go up so far, and sooner or later, you got to find somebody to help you get the rest of the way up that ladder. It's just the way it is, right? So I was blessed to have her, and it worked out for me, and they're out there male and female. You just got to find the person. You got to be in the right atmosphere to find the person.
Yeah, it's all about who
Right.
you're hanging
That
around,
person
where you're
most
going.
likely, I'm sorry, Jason, that person is most likely not at the bar, right? Most likely. I'm just saying, right? And
No, that's 100% correct. I'll say it. You're 100% correct. You're 100% correct. So, what's the old saying? Show me the crowd that you hang around, or show me where you spend your time, and I can show you your future, kind of a thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The other thing is, and this might be, look, I'm old school, folks, so don't hit me hard on this one. But if you want to know what your wife's going to look like in the future, just look at her mother.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that one before. I've heard that one before.
That's
now
it.
with your business now, we'll skip forward to present day. You've built a company that includes your family. I know you've talked about your granddaughter. She's learning some things. And how are you able to establish something with your family and keep the peace and keep it flourishing? Because so many people hear all the negative stuff about going into business with family.
Yeah. So going to business with family sucks. It's terrible. Don't ever do it. I'll just be honest with you. Don't do it unless you're a very strong leader and you have full 100% control. Right. So in the beginning, I tried to do that. I quickly learned it didn't work. And that was even after my mother and father told me it wasn't going to work, but I still didn't listen to them and I did it anyways. But today after a while, and today it's different. So after a while, I just realized that, hey, I'm just going to go out and do my own thing. Right. And you watch me or you don't watch me. Right. And if you watch me and you see that I'm improving, then you come to me. It's a different platform now because you came to me. I'm not chasing you. Right. Yeah. So I don't want to say I never pushed it on my children. My dream has always been so we have 5 boys and 12 grandchildren. Little Jack is our little Jack and Parker are our earliest 2. And, but I don't push it on them anymore. With the boys, I always wanted them to be a part of it. It was always my dream, but I realized that they had their own dreams. And it caused a little friction between me and one of my sons. Yeah. But we're all good now, but that was my fault. And but now they're coming back and they're saying, hey, I want to be a part of what you're doing. Or I've been out in the world long enough. Can I come back and you groom me to take this over? And now my youngest son is different. His name is JC and his wife Lexi. They've worked with us ever since they were old enough I think they started working for us their last year of high school.
Oh wow.
And they've been with us. They've been with us since, I don't want to say day one, but since we've pretty much been down here in Myrtle Beach. And those two get as much credit as anybody else, because without the two of them helping, we may not be where we're as far along as we are today. I mean, they're always there, no matter when they yell and bitch at me all the time about it, but they're always there for me, always, right. But my first son, our first son passed away when he was 6. And then the next oldest son, though I love him, but I have to keep my distance from him because he's just, he's just one of those things that he's got to go do his own thing. And that's what he's doing. The middle son and I are great. And then the next youngest one, he worked for us for a while, and he was the one that, I was a little bit too hard on him, especially after he got back from Afghanistan. That was just wrong of me to be that hard on him. I should have realized that myself, for being experienced in myself. And then the youngest one. But now I got my granddaughters, 2 of my older granddaughters. My niece now called me, and she just graduated, so she wants to know. She called me up and says, "What college?"
Yeah, you told me about your niece when we were talking last week. Yeah.
She wants to know what do I need to do to be a part of the company, And my 16-year-old granddaughter called me. She says, "Hey, I'm coming down to visit with the other granddaughter, and I want to come and spend a week or so with you and start learning." So that's what you can hope for. Right. You can't push it on them.
And you learn that along the way.
Yeah. Because if you're pushing on them, you end up with a. No, I'm gonna leave that alone. Never mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Where do you see your business in 5 years, and where do you see you and your business in 10 years?
So with me, I have no plans on slowing down or stopping. At one point, I thought I did. I thought I would want to sit in a rocking chair and chill out with my wife and, watch the 12 grandchildren. But I think that would be disrespectful to them, in a way. So I'm going to keep going. And I don't know, I can't speak for Julie. She's ready to call it quits anytime now. But for me, no. So we started the one company we're kind of struggling with a little bit right now. I'm working my butt off to get that off the ground. I'd like to turn that into a very big company. And my consulting firm, I'll probably always do that. And we are looking at some other projects right now. So what I'm doing is we became a family office. You go kind of from being the individual Bob, the builder type of thing. And then you go to working with some people and you do that for a very long time. And then you start to realize, okay, now I've started to build this little kitty and things. When you build that kitty and you have the wealth backing and other people's backing, things change for you. So now our company is completely restructured with trust and holding companies and LLCs and all this other stuff that we do to protect us.
Because this is the book that I'm gonna get back to reading.
Yeah, what would the Rockefellers do?
And it talks about the trust, which has the holding company, and then the holding company holds all the different LLCs. And how when each one of the Rockefellers, when the baby was first born, they took off, I think they did a whole life insurance policy.
Yep.
And how they essentially created, now they have the family office, and they have their own bank, essentially.
Right.
Created, right.
Yeah. And we've done that here too. We have our own bank and lending. We lend to certain family people for certain things. But it's all by the book, bro. It's all by the book, But if you have children, and if you've done some of the 11 things I talked about earlier and you have children, one of the best things you could do for your child is open a custodial account for them. And it doesn't matter if you put $10 a month in it, $10 a week in it. I don't care what you put in it. Just put something in it. Just go out and buy the NASDAQ, go out and buy the SPY or this S&P 500 and just keep putting them in. And I'm not saying do it so that they can be, I can't resist it. That's so they can be a Hunter Biden, right? Just do it so that they can. I couldn't let it go. I've been trying all night to keep that in, and I failed you.
You were doing so good.
I'm sorry, I failed you. Okay, so
you were totally fine, bro. You were totally fine with me.
So you put that money in there. In the worst case scenario, right? You use it for their college. And if they don't go to college and they become this bad child, or I don't know, whatever you quote them as, give the money to charity. Give it to somebody else. You don't have to give it to them, but at least start them out early and give them a head start. And if you own a company, you're self-employed, right? Even if it's a part-time job, hire your child. Even if he does, even if you put him in sweeping the floors or do a picture and use that as your marketing or something, and pay your child, right? That qualifies as a Roth IRA, right? It's earned income.
Yeah.
And
I know I speak for the entirety of my audience. We could say we could care less about your political affiliation, because you know what? You're here giving us information, and we don't care where it comes from or who it comes from. You're here. Other people are not here, but you said yes. So thank goodness for you for coming on and giving us that information. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Sidney Chase, I have held him way past the time that I told him that I would hold him. So we want to say thank you to him. His website is right there, Sid Chase. I call him Sid, but his full name is Sidney. But Sid Chase, show us the books one more time. Sid, that you have there. Yep. We didn't even get into that. I'm going to bring you back on because I wanted to talk about the alternative investments that you've done. So we'll schedule that. And then the No Bull real estate, most definitely. And what was the daily No Bull book? Yes. Awesome. Yep. Your daily dose.
Daily dose.
I actually wanted to wait until after this to order all of my books because I want you to actually sign them.
Yeah. So if they get them off my website, I think if you get them off from Amazon too, then I get a chance to sign them.
Okay. Yep. Very good. And if they order a book, guys, email Sid, let him know you ordered a book so he can be looking out for that because you definitely want to have a book by this amazing man to sign it. Sid, thanks so much, bro. I appreciate you. You're just like the coolest guy. You were like ZZ Tops meets Marvel meets like billionaire philanthropist. And let me tell you once again, guys, Sid is the coolest guy. He is the coolest guy, down to earth, and it's just such a pleasure to know him. And I'm going to keep in contact with him, whether you guys do or not, because this man has a wealth of knowledge, and we only hit the tip of the iceberg tonight. So tell your wife, thank you for allowing me this time that I took you away from her. Tell her not to be mad at me.
I'll tell her.
Yep. And tell her when I hope to see her again soon so I can get another hug.
Yeah,
I hugged
definitely.
her at the track but she was so beautiful and so nice and just so warm, such a warm person. So thank you,
Yeah,
Sid.
I trained her well.
Say what?
I trained her well.
Yeah. Well, if she has anything to say about it, she'll say no. It's the opposite way around.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you for having me on. I had a great time. I hope that helped out a lot of your folks, whether listening now or they're going to be listening years in advance. It was a blessing. It's been a blessing to meet you and get to know you. And if anybody wants to follow me, it's on Facebook. It's just Sid Chase Sr. On Instagram, I don't have my own personal Instagram, but Venom does. So it's We Are Venom GT21, all one word. We Are Venom GT21. And so those things there, I show some pictures of the houses we're building on Venom. It's mostly about the car and my lifestyle, things like that. We're actually building our new home right now, man. So I'll get you some pictures.
Real quick, I want to go back there. Give me the square footage. Tell them about this monstrosity of a home or garage that you're building.
Yeah, so the house is about 5,000 square feet, and it's 33 acres that we just bought. It's a standard, it looks like a barndominium kind of in a way, but the garage is about 1,800. I got shorted. My wife took out some space from me that we're going to work on later. So if she took 2, I should get at least 6. But anyways, the garage holds 5 cars normally, but I'm putting lifts in. So when I'm done, it'll hold 8 cars for me. Right. And then I have a spot for some motorcycles collection. And so I'm excited about getting that done. And, we lived on our yacht for 5 or 6 years, and somebody just came along and wanted to buy the yacht from me. So I said, sure, I sold it.
You lived on your yacht? For real?
Yeah, well, it's not a 120 meter yacht. It was only 50 foot, but it was a big yacht, and it had 2 staterooms, and we loved the time that we spent there living on it on the docks. It was great, and so now we're in this model home that we had available, and we're building our houses, and we're excited about it, and we're going to be doing homesteading stuff, and we're going to be actually one of the new companies is going to be a cattle business.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Sid. And I'll probably call you tomorrow.
All right, man. That sounds good.
I'll check in with you tomorrow. Thanks so much, guys, for joining us on the podcast, on the episode, on the YouTube. I'm still trying to figure out technically what I am, but thanks for coming and tuning in on the show. Conversations with the Millionaire, Mr. Sidney Chase, the awesome guy with the awesome beard and the awesome venom. So we appreciate you guys coming out. Sid, I'm going to give you a call tomorrow to say thank you again. Tell your wife we said we love her and thank her so much. And we are done.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that.